a PowerPoint slide, but I have the voting rights white paper. Does anyone need a copy? I have a couple more, if everyone has one. Okay, good. All right, so my name is Melissa Currence, and I've known Catherine. I think actually I first met you when you were working on the redistricting campaign in 2012.
Yes.
Which did not pass, but yeah. So it's I know Catherine, for a long time working in the state of Ohio. So, and Catherine talked about the importance of volunteers. So I'm a volunteer. I am not a lawyer. I just do this kind of thing for fun. I like to call myself a voter nerd. So that's why I'm here today. I'm just a regular citizen. And so I want to just talk more about what can we do as citizens as we think about all that is happening today. So I'm with the Cincinnatus Association, and we're a nonpartisan organization where we have members who focus on, we have panels on good government, we have the arts, we have public education and inclusion. We've been around in Cincinnati for over 100 years. So we started out, so Catherine talked about Boss Tweed. In Cincinnati, as you all know, we had Boss Cox. And so Cincinnatus was started as an association to let's get power back to the people. How can we make sure that there's reform in the city and give the power back to the voters. So our history is, we've changed over the years. We've been around over 100 years. Things changed a little bit, but back in the day, we were known for very in-depth analysis of social issues. And so what we wanted to do with this voting rights white paper, this idea came up that we would put together a starting point so we could have a good conversation around voting rights policies. The thing about voting rights policies is, like I said, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a civil rights attorney, but it can feel very fractured. We're talking about all these terms and how can we define it so we can at least have a basis for having conversations. This really came up because, for me personally, I remember when the Ohio General Assembly, the lame duck session in 2022, and there was all these reforms on the table around voting rights, and so it was at Cincinnatus, I felt like we were scrambling, what is going on? What can we do as citizens to ensure that the citizens' vote is protected? So this work, this voting rights white paper is about 24 pages long. So I know you probably all, I know you'll absorb it all at one time, but I realize it is a lot of info, and it took us 2 years to put it together. Because as I said, we're a volunteer organization. Alice, who's in the room, was on the committee, and Sarah, who's on the screen, was also part of the committee. We had about 5 of us that worked together and really dug deep into these voting rights policies and to understand. We wanted to make sure that we even understood what we were talking about. So the way that the white paper is set up is that we have we're trying to do things in one-pager form. So there's a lot of different topics that are included in the white paper, but one of the things that we kind of, if you look at it, it's kind of just as you orient yourself is big picture to small, so big national issues down to local issues. So we have, we talk about the importance of all the key voting rights amendments that are in the Constitution. We talk about what does it mean to be the concept of one person, one vote. What does that really mean? Because that's such a big basis in a lot of judicial opinions around voting rights. We have a section in there that talks about how has voting changed from the 1960s on, and what were the things that changed that made it to where we are today. It was very eye-opening to me about basically there's less reason to compromise in DC because the hyper-partisanship is really dug in. And overall for me, if I was trapped in an elevator with you and I had 30 seconds to talk about this, is that nothing is stagnant. So if you even think about who had the right to vote in 1781, right, when the Constitution was formed, it was men. but over the years, we've changed the, black voters, Native American voters, women, people who are 18 and over. That was the last big enfranchisement in the 70s. And I think that what's great about the Constitution is it is so flexible. And so when you look at policies, so with voting rights, it's very specific to the states. But what we wanted to do is empower folks to know the way that Ohio does it, the way that Kentucky does it, isn't necessarily the way that Oregon does it or the way that Colorado does it. And we can learn from each other. And we can adjust it based on the needs of what our community, what our community needs. The thing that I think about a lot is, I forget I think it's the 17th Amendment, that's where it changes. So when the framers wrote the Constitution, they had it where the US Senators were chosen by the state assemblies. And in, I think it's 1913, the Constitution was changed, that it was direct election of the Senate. And I think that, it's going back to empowering the citizens to have a say who is their voice in Washington. And at the same time, in Ohio, we got the citizen initiative petition process. So as you know, that's the process where we get redistricting on the ballot. There's been so many reforms that have happened through the Ohio Constitution, through the citizen initiative petition process. But it's yet again, it's not that the oligarchy is telling us how to run our government. It's the people are able to put something on the ballot, and then the people get to vote on that as well. One of the cool things, and I can go into more, maybe we can open it up for questions, but one of the things that the Cincinnatus Association is working on is, there's a section in here on young people, and it's page 14, but it's talking about voters with age considerations. So the thing with what we know about young people when they vote is that if they are feeling that their vote doesn't count, they are less likely to participate. And then this could have an effect on their voting record the rest of their life. So at Cincinnatus, what we're really starting to focus on is how can we empower and inspire young people with civic participation. So obviously it's voting, but it's showing up in your community. There's a lot of things that are involved with civic participation, but to make sure that even though things are difficult and things are changing all the time, that their vote does count, and that's something that we're really working on. The voter ID issues around young people, college, voter ID around college students is something that's big in Ohio that we mentioned in here. But also thinking about older voters and how if you're, I think about my own family where they've lived in the same house for 40, 50 years, and then they have to move, but then they have to update their voter ID, they have to update their voter registration, but they've been voting 50 years, and how can someone who feels connected to voting now isn't able to vote because of the changes in voter ID laws. So that's I know it's big and broad, but I think we can open it up for questions.
Yes, and I don't know if you want to minimize that. I told them to put their questions in the chat, so I don't know if the chat will show up or not. I don't know. Oh, did we?
Can I make this bigger?
Yeah, there you go. Okay.
Okay. All right.
Are there any questions in the chat? Okay.
So, okay. I don't think we got any questions.